Y'all, we live in difficult times. There's war, political unrest, the pandemic, poverty, families being torn, communities ripped by gun violence and people dying every day, police, injustice. It's all bringing so much pain. But y'all, we can look inside our minds and we can understand who we are, become better, and do this thing like we've never done it before. But it all starts with our mental health, and I know we can do it. I believe in you because I believe in me, and I believe in us. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Therapy is Life, where thinking, feeling, and experiencing well-being in Cleveland, that's what we do. Tonight, I have with me Maal G.
Peace.
And BK Watts.
What up, though?
Okay, Maurice is not here with us today, but that's okay. Today, we're going to talk about self-care and forgiveness and their relationship to our well-being. That's right, forgiveness, self-care, and their relationship to our well-being. I want to start by saying this. Listen, y'all, we flourish first and not second. We should not apologize about taking care of ourselves. We should consider it the first priority in life. No one should dictate you taking care of yourself, but you. So, with that being said, boy, you know what? We had a good time down there in Atlanta in the ATL.
It was hot, man.
Yes, it was.
It was hot. So, we went down to Revolt World end of September. It was 94 degrees. I want to say 2 of the days we was there.
Atlanta.
93 one of the other days. That ain't no difference for real.
No,
it was hot. And we was outside. But we did get to bounce around, go to a bunch of different panels, hear some different discussions. I know you got to check in with a couple of the dope ones that were mental health focused.
Yes, I did.
I do appreciate the fact that culturally there are so many facets to us. Like it ain't all just like the standard things that you think of, that media still tries to stereotype us into in a box that they put us in. There are black people who like video games. There are black people who are into mental health. There's black people who are into music. There's black people into all these different things. And I felt like there was some of everything represented at the conference.
Yeah. I learned a lot and throughout the podcast, not just this show, but moving forward, I'm going to bring up some of the nuggets. Today, though, I really want to focus on something I learned that first day I was there. Got there was a whole lot of music, whole lot of things going on. Actually, it was the second day, right? It was so exciting. But I had a chance to go and be a part of a meditation class. And when I went to the class, I heard the statement, we flourish first, not second.
Okay, I was wondering, I'm like, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
But that's where it was at. I'm like, why did I hear that recently or see it?
Yeah, so that was one of the themes for the Revolt World tour. We flourish first, not second. And then it went on to talk about how we shouldn't apologize for taking care of ourselves. We shouldn't let other people dictate what's going on with us, but we should dictate our life and our experience, and we should not apologize for it. Man, I was like, that is so good. But when I went over to the meditation class, which was about 30 minutes, we did about 10 minutes of meditation. And one of the first things we learn about meditation is, we think that meditation is just sitting quietly and just not saying or doing anything. But you learn very quickly, meditation is just not sitting. You can meditate running, you can meditate walking, you can meditate sitting in that more classical stance. But meditation is really about being very present in the moment and describing the things and feeling the things that are around you. Yeah. So you not being distracted by anything else around you. So when we were meditating, Shabazz Larkin, he was leading the meditation. I thought this was so cool. We was working on our breathing, and he said, I want you to think about somebody that not that important to you, that you don't know that much about. And I want you to think about them, and I want you to say, wish them a good day, that they will have a good month, that they will have a good year. And then he went from there to a person that you knew that maybe they was a friend. And I want you to take this person and think about how they can have a good year, a good month, a good week, a good day, hoping for them to have that. But as he went on, he went to somebody that you had a problem or issue with, and you were to wish and hope for them to have a good year, a good month, a good day. At the end of this process, imagining this, I felt so good, so relieved, because I was able to focus in and think about not only people that I really didn't know all that well, but also people that I had problems with, but I was releasing that energy. And there was something about that made me feel really good.
Yeah.
But another, I think, important piece in this was we were talking about self-care and taking care of yourself. And I remember Shabazz saying that when you leave here, don't let people just take your pearls, whatever you got in this experience. Try to hold on to it. Be very cautious about how you give out your pearls to other people, because you need your positive energy. And so with that being said, I thought about this, and I want to have a conversation about self-care. But what came to my mind is the importance of forgiveness in caring for ourselves. And I wonder, guys, how do you see forgiveness? What first question is, how do you see forgiveness? And then we'll move on from there to how can forgiving be helpful to you? Ultimately, how does it allow us to be the best version of ourselves, if possible?
Yeah, man, that's a deep concept in the aspect of meditation, because I never thought about meditating in a way that, you can focus on somebody and releasing energy from that, right?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
more so the times I've done meditation or been taught about meditation is just like more inward, self-reflecting, and kind of, it's this brother who does this meditation called Raj Chi, and it's a joy amplification. And it's similar, but it's just about reflecting on yourself and what makes you happy, and really just like imagining yourself smiling and embracing that thing, whatever it is to make you happy, and how literally that's like an instant mood lifter to you. When he calls it a joy amplification meditation. So that's a good one, but I like that. But to your question, as far as forgiveness, what does it mean?
What does it mean to you?
To me, I would say it's a process, right? But it's a beneficial process to it, because when I think about forgiveness at this stage, I look at it as releasing, the weight that I'm carrying from from holding on to something, holding on to a grudge or whatnot. And I would feel like my younger self definitely had issues along those lines. When I felt like offended, or I felt like somebody's done me wrong, holding on to it, holding on to that energy that's connected in the unforgiveness place. But once and really for me, it was like when I went through grief therapy, that's what really taught me the power in forgiving, because it forced me to go back to everything that I could possibly think of that offended me or that affected me in some sort of type of way. And it made me address it in my head and kind of face it in a way where it's like, even if I can't physically talk to that person that may have offended me, for me to release it, you know, even in a verbal statement of me just saying, I forgive you, and, you know, being detailed on what I'm forgiving you for, but forgiving that person in my heart, man, it was just a release that I felt related to that. So that's what I feel like forgiveness ultimately is. It's a level of release of an energy that you've been holding in. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
It's tough. If I'm honest, I feel like maybe I'm not good at it. At the forgiveness element. Maybe I ain't got that part down yet. I can say that I have had people who have wronged me, and I've just chosen to. I still interact with them, still engage with them. Perhaps maybe it would take the extra step of saying, I forgive you for X, Y, Z. I don't know. But I can say I've had those situations occur where something has happened, but it's like if our relationship dynamic completely changes behind whatever happened, it's almost like I almost question, like, did I really forgive that person? Because it's like, you know, they say forgive and, you know, say forgive, not forget, whatever the case may be. But it's like, can you say you really forgave a person if y'all can't get back to where y'all was at? If I'm still going to hold you at a distance, or everything about our dynamic has changed now, it's like, did I really forgive you? And I kind of question that about myself. Because it's like, I might be like ultra personal. I had a falling out with my grandmother, who is my last living grandparent. And granted, she has since apologized. And I'm like, all right, I'm not holding nothing against you. At the same time, I think that scenario opened my eyes to the totality of our relationship, and made me feel like, it made me really look at it for what it was. And then going forward, it's like, in my mind, it's like, I forgive you. But at the same time, even since then, I probably haven't. I actually, it's what is it, October? I haven't heard her voice and spoken to her once this year. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why it's a weird thing for me.
Right.
Can I chime back on that?
Yeah, you can chime back on it. Go ahead.
It's two elements to it that I want to ask you. One is, what's your sign?
Sagittarius.
We're Sagittarius.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Sag. Yeah, for sure.
What that supposed to mean?
No, because I got some Sages in my life, and I can see set between Sages and Cancers. I do believe in, you know, some aspects of astrology, and you know, but I can kind of see that, you know, dynamic there. But so I feel like that from my perspective is a common trait in certain Sages, you know, that they have a hard time in that element. But then, like, I think it's the aspect of forgiveness too, where, because the people I know who have the most difficulty forgiving, I think they look, because, and a lot of times those people are sometimes some of the most loyal individuals. They're some of the most solid folks that feel like to be betrayed is hard to come back to where it was. But I think even in that perspective, like for me, for instance, one time I had a childhood friend, one of my A1 Day One cats, who was super close growing up. And this dude, you know, I think personally he had some psychological issues that he went through, but he just straight went at me on social media for no reason at all. I hadn't talked to this brother in like 5 years, and he went at me hardcore on social media, like talked about my character, brought my family in it, you know, tried to involve my father in the situation, just for no reason, just came at me. So I was at the point where I wanted to do this man physical harm because he came at me this crazy for no reason. And so my level of dislike and hate towards him was at an all-time high. And I knew I had to get that off me because I was carrying it daily, like I said, to work, in my family atmosphere. I was holding on to it. So I had to get to a place to let that go. And I honestly did address it in my own way through my grief recovery, and I allowed myself to forgive him. And I feel like in my heart of hearts, I really truly do forgive him. I've had to, pray for him and wish him well in my heart. Now, with that being said, I still don't have the expectation for that relationship to be what it was, or for me and him to become super tight again. But for me to be able to forgive him, just release that issue that I had with him on a daily basis in my mind and in my heart. You know what I'm saying? I had to release that up off me because it was just constantly carrying the weight on me. And so I was just saying that to say, if you forgive, that doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship has to return to whatever it was.
For sure.
But you can just, from that, now you can see that person for who they are in their space and just understand that that's where they're at in their life for whatever reason. And, just know that relationship can't be to the point it was anymore. But I understand for some people that's just a hard thing. I know some close people in my life, and I ain't gonna put them out here on this podcast, but close people in my life that have serious issues with forgiveness, and it's for that like same reason.
So when I listen to you talking, I hear what you're saying. I like to think about forgiveness as I let go of the debt, like my student loan. It's like it wasn't forgiven, but but you can't. But you can't come back to me and expect me to give you the thing I gave you before, because I let the debt go. I'm not worried about that debt anymore, but I'm not gonna put myself in that same position again. It's kind of like this story I heard one time. A man told me, he said there was a frog and a scorpion. The frog was by the waterside. The scorpion came to him and said, "Hey, can you give me a ride across the other side?" So the frog says to the scorpion, "I'm not going to give you a ride across the water because you're going to sting me." The scorpion says, "No, I need to get across the water. So because I need to get over there, I'm not going to sting you." He convinces the frog to take him across the water. So the frog starts swimming, the scorpion on his back. Things seem to be going fine. When they got about halfway over, the scorpion stings the frog.
Can't trust him.
The frog says, "Fool, now we both gonna die." The scorpion says, "No, you the fool, because you knew I was a scorpion and I was gonna sting you."
You should have known.
You should have known. So I think we can forgive people, but once they, as Maya would say, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. I think understand I can let go of the debt. And because when I don't let go of the debt, it eats at me. And I guess my next question to you in regards to that is this, fellas, is how important is self-forgiveness when it comes to the idea of forgiveness?
I'm gonna say very. Because I feel like we'd have all had one of them scenarios where they'd be like, "Man, I'll never forgive myself for this one." Because I definitely had a couple of those. Like, man, all right, bruh, what you doing? Like, how did you blow this? But that is, I think it just comes with age, with maturity, with wisdom, and more experience for you to realize that those mistakes and the things that you make along the way through this process, it's like you have to be able to forgive yourself for being human.
Exactly.
Because that's ultimately what it is.
Yep.
And I think the same applies to other people as well. I can be like, "Hey, look, you cool. I can still see that person in his daps and pounds. I can even crack a joke or two with you. But at the same time, I absolutely am comfortable leaving you over there while I continue to maneuver over here, and just let that be what that is."
Right.
I agree, man, because like for me, I think learning to forgive myself is what really helped me to forgive others a lot easier, because it's that empathy piece that it's like, man, I know my deepest, darkest secrets. I know what I've done to myself, to others. I just know what I've done in general. And I've been able to maybe from some, maybe not get forgiven for those things. But, for myself, I know that, I'm here by the grace, man. I could have been in a lot of other situations. I could not be here doing this podcast with y'all right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, and because I've been able to be graced from my bad mistakes, it's like, who am I not to have that for somebody else? You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that everybody, to your point, is flawed. Nobody is perfect. And I think that's a big issue with what's going on wrong with the world that we live in currently. It's like everybody holds people to this standard that's unrealistic.
Right.
Everybody has flaws. Everybody has dirt. Everybody has done wrong, and everybody, I would hope has tried to do some right. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I was listening to this brother make a point today and say that, what did he say? What's that old saying that we always say? Like, oh, keep that energy. Mm-hmm. When somebody does something wrong to you, it's like, keep that energy. Like, yeah, you keep that energy when they done something wrong, but we don't highlight when somebody has done something right to say, like, keep that energy.
Exactly.
Right. We talk to keep the energy about negative stuff. And so I think it's just a learned behavior, man, for us to, like, highlight on each other's flaws.
You know what? When we forgive ourselves, I think it makes it easier for us not to focus on other people's flaws, because somehow in the way we think, if other people have flaws, it makes us feel better about ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. Versus realizing how much we are alike and similar, we point and pick and talk about people because we don't like something about ourselves. But when we like ourselves, or we fall in love with ourselves and we give ourselves grace, we can give grace to other people. And I like to think about it like this. People talk about the word righteous, right? And I break it down into two words, right and just. In order to truly be righteous, you have to be right, I guess, and you have to be just. You have to be fair. And if you can't be both of those things, you can't be righteous. That makes sense?
Facts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I know I done messed up before. I forgive myself, so I can forgive you for your wrong, because when I forgive you for your wrong, it allows us both to be free and have a new opportunity to do something else. You think about it. I've been a therapist for quite some time now, and I have worked with many families which was seeking justice for a family member they may have lost murder. They're in court. And I've heard them desire and want that judgment, that verdict. But once that verdict is done, it might feel good for a moment, but it doesn't change how they really feel. Mm-hmm. And now they go into a deeper place of grief. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I'll say, is this really what you think it is? Because at the end of the day, you probably won't be free from this until you find a way to let it go. Mm-hmm. And that's so tough. You won't be.
But you know what? What you're saying is making me think about how people really, it's about people get stuck on the past so tough that they can't walk forward, right? So it's just like people who have serious issues with unforgiveness, and I think about this myself when I was having serious issues with it, it's like it constantly makes me have to think about something that was a past wrong, something that happened to me in the past tense, right? And you literally cannot change what happened in the past. You know, what happened in the past happened.
And in the past,
everything we said on this podcast is gone already. That was already said. All we can move forward on is what's ahead.
I'm sorry. I ain't sorry.
and then I think it's some people's lack of belief that the future can be better. You know what I mean? Like, they think that because of something that's happened to me in the past, it's going to either reoccur again in my future, or I don't deserve anything better than what's already happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
that's why I feel like a mental block for folks with forgiveness is all about, because I got some clients, man. My one dude, and I love him to death, man. But every time he come and sit in a chair, man, it's always about something that done already happened, man. Just negative conversation about, man, guess what happened to me? Instead of like optimistically talking about what you're gonna do next.
Exactly. When people are in a box and we get angry for things, it may seem like we're getting angry about something that's happening right now, but it's really about something that happened in the past.
For sure.
It's just presenting itself in a different person or a different situation in the very present. And when we understand that, now we can change the way we interpret things. A lot, to your point specifically, a lot of people come to therapy and they talk about issues with their parents. And in that dialogue, I'll ask them, have your parents ever said they were sorry for what they did? And if they say yes, I'll say to them, well, they have given you permission to move forward and make your own decisions for yourself. Because right now, all you're doing is making them responsible for everything else that's happening in your life. But if you have forgiven them for what they did, now you can see new possibilities and you can move forward.
Yeah.
Because your parents are flawed people too. I love my parents, but I can't say they perfect. I think they perfect people, but they're not perfect.
Yeah.
So if I get mad at, well, my dad did this, or my mom did this, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that, man, look, I could probably have reasons to be wherever. I remember one time I was going through an issue in my own life, and my mom said, what did I do? And I was like, Mom, nah, it ain't your fault.
It ain't your fault. Wow.
It ain't your fault. I don't want you to even
She took
go there.
on the blame. She
Was trying to like, no, Ma, it's me. This is Gerald. Because I realized at this point I was in the driver's seat. And sometimes people let blame and personalization and all these things get in the driver's seat of their life.
Yeah.
And they don't let it go, and then it eats at their very possibilities. Here they are, 50 years old, still talking about what their mama did or what their daddy did, or somebody who didn't protect them from something or whatever. But they are aware of it, but they don't know how to go get help, therapy, or get a friend or somebody to help them walk through that so they can have a new life. And another thing people like to say a lot, well, it's easier said than done. But if you don't say it, if you don't see it, how you gonna change it?
Facts.
You can't forgive anything that you can't talk about, you can't identify, you can't talk about.
Yeah.
So to release it, first you got to be able to identify it, talk about it, and then realize that your mother that maybe had that drug addiction, maybe she was hurting and she had issues that was keeping her from being the mom that you wanted her to be. So if you forgive her for her shortcomings, maybe you can see yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
Because the reason why I see myself and don't love myself the way I should is because I'm still focusing on this person who couldn't do what I thought they needed to do for me.
But some people use that as like motivation. Like, have you ever seen
Yes.
Kurt Franklin's? Kurt Franklin did a little documentary about his re-meeting his father, his biological father that he never had in his life.
Right.
Because he was adopted, but I think he used what happened to him in his childhood as motivation to become something. So he used that as fuel, but even in his older age, you could see he was still affected by it. So he had to address it and have an eye-to-eye conversation with his father who was never biologically in his life. And I think, man, it was deep, man. It had me choked up, man, because of how heartfelt it was for him to address that issue that had been in his life this whole time, his absent father who was still around that he thought was dead. It's crazy. But, I think, he didn't allow something that his parents did to affect his whole life like that. He used it as fuel, to become something, but you could tell internally he still was battling certain things related to it until he addressed it, head on.
That's good. So many people, there's so much theory, so much psychological information around our first 6, 10, 12 years of life, our developmental ages, developmental stages, and how what we experience in that time frame affects the person we become. And the first 3 years, you know, if we get abused or hurt, you know, that sets a stage for a lot of trials and tribulations. And if you don't have, quote, the right people in your life, if you don't get the right support and help, it's going to make it more difficult. Now, you know, for some people it is therapy. For other people, it's their relationship, their spiritual experience is what helps them. I know at the end of the day that, you know, I grew up on what they call the golden rule: love thy neighbor as ourselves, and the whole idea of forgiveness. But I realized later on that forgiveness wasn't necessarily about the person; it was about me. So I won't sit around being afraid to live because somebody did something to me. Because one of the dangerous things about holding on to stuff is everybody else in your life will be taxed for your bad experiences, for your unfortunate experiences. So your friends, husband, wife, whoever, the people you work with, they'll be taxed because somebody hurt you and you never was able to let it go, never addressed it and was able to release it. So now you live in this space, you know, and I hear that so often. Yeah. And we going back to that discussion, going back to that experience and how we think about what's going on, because we've never able to release that, let it go, and be present in the very space we live right now.
So now that you done took it spiritual, I gotta put my little tidbit in, from my upbringing in church, man. That also helps me with my forgiveness, you know, perspective, because there's two aspects of it. When you look at when Jesus was on that cross, right, and he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And for one, just to look at the empathy that Jesus had on somebody who was literally killing him on the cross at that time, to still ask the Father to forgive those people who persecuted him, for they know not what they do. And, you know, I look at also where it says we war not against flesh and blood, but against evil spirits and principalities in higher places. I look at sometimes when people have offended me, or, you know, for instance, like my dude who came at me crazy on social media, I felt like that wasn't even the inner soul of his good being. That wasn't the inner soul of the friendship that we had. I feel like that's an evil influence on his life that told him to attack me like that. And so I look at it from a spiritual perspective with people sometimes when they operate in a place of offense. It's like you're not even operating. You're allowing an evil spirit to be influence you to do some harm towards somebody. I don't even look at the person. I look at the spiritual entity that's over that person, that's allowing them to do something in offense. You know,
Gotcha.
Because it can come from the closest person to you, like literally the person who you might be in the bed with, that attacks you or says something offensive. You know, sometimes a woman can say some of the wildest stuff to you, you know what I'm saying? Because she know how to hit you in the heart. But sometimes I ain't going to say that she's influenced by Satan, but it's just saying, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, that spirit can get into somebody, man, and cause them to do something. It's been times that I've made statements to my own children, and I had to really examine, like, dang, you know, why did I say that? You know what I'm saying? I can't even take them words back. You know, it's stuff that I know I've said to my child, and it's like she holds on to, sometimes she'll hold on to the most offensive things that I said to her instead of the uplifting, kind things that I said to her.
Right.
And I'm not verbally abusive, but I'm just saying something like to say, hey, calling her, hey, you spoiled rotten. You know what I'm saying? She gonna hold on to, you called me spoiled rotten. You know what I'm saying? Like, she gonna hold on to that.
She gonna hold on to that.
That hardest thing. So it's like that Satan energy, that evil energy knows how to, like, capture people's hearts sometimes. You know what I'm saying? In a way where it's like, it's hard to take. That's why you gotta be so careful with your words, man.
Yeah, destructive things can take on many forms, and we have to be very aware and conscious that what you was talking about, it was founded in people being ignorant, and they was afraid of something they didn't understand. We talking about the idea of Jesus and being on the cross and saying, Father, forgive them. People were being ignorant, and him being who he was and what he represented was something that spoke to the fact that I could see their hurt. I could see their pain. I could see their suffering. I could see they didn't understand where I am, but I'm going to forgive them. And that's the like ideal place to be, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for us to be free from the burdens of people and their struggles and our own struggles, we have to give each other grace and we have to forgive. Because if we don't forgive, we're going to be in cycles. And some of the things that's going on in the world right now is about cycles of unforgiven. You think about on the street, sometimes things are going on for generations after generation after generation because nobody will come in truce and say, let's stop this. And I think even we talk about the idea of generational curses and stuff, but I see it more as, no, there's thinking that's been passed down from generation to generation that's creating this environment. But if we could figure out how to forgive and let go, maybe things could change.
Yeah.
But we hold on to, I guess, pride in a sense. We hold on to fear. We don't let go. So then the bitterness, the anger, the destructiveness continues because we fail to forgive.
So hear me out, right? Since we touched that bag, on one hand, right, I always thought "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do" was a banger. But at the same time, though, them niggas knew. He was literally like, "Hey, dog, I'm Jesus," and they was like, "No." He's like, "But bruh, like, I am. I'm telling y'all." You don't want to do this. Like, God's son, bro. Think about how salty he gonna be at y'all for this.
And they was, God's son.
Y'all see this.
It was like,
don't get no realer.
Ain't trying to hear it. Hang him up there.
Yeah.
They knew. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, it's a banger of a line, but it wasn't even true. Them niggas knew. And I low-key look at people today the same way.
Yeah.
You knew.
You knew. Right.
You knew. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, the lesson that I take from those final moments of the man himself, you feel me, is we know our sins were forgiven, you know what I'm saying, were died for on that cross, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, he made that ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
Forgiving those who had stood against him. That's cool. And the thing is, so it's not our job to take that same ultimate sacrifice. So, you know what I'm saying?
Like, said Jesus forgave. I don't have to.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can forgive you, my nigga, but not to the degree where I'm about to let you be my downfall in totality. You know what I'm saying?
But go ahead.
mentality, though.
I'm saying, I can't. He took that ultimate sacrifice.
Well,
I'm
Rick
not
Ross
about to
say God forgives. I don't.
You know what I'm saying? It's not to say, and it, right, and it ain't even to say that I'm unwilling to forgive. But again, though, I'm not gonna forgive you in the face of you being my demise. Like that's you ain't worth that. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't allow that to happen.
It's
because
all about perspective, though. When it's about perspective, because I'm saying the same thing. I feel like when you forgive is when you release that might kill you, man. That inner holding that in, that begrudge, that stress that it causes, that will eat away at your heart. When you forgive, you release that. That's the perspective about it.
But to his point, maybe what I think about is there are some of us who've taken on that idea so deeply that we always sacrifice ourselves for the sake of others, and we become like this martyr, but we didn't need to be that.
Yeah.
And so
I see that too.
That's what I'm saying.
I see that
cope.
too.
We cope in this place of
You can't be a doormat.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
And-
I'm not about to forgive you while you shanking me.
Yeah.
Like, no.
So and remember,
Yeah,
you know what?
I feel that though.
Yeah,
I feel that though.
Yeah, you know, so I heard a man say one time, I might know who he is. He said, so here they come and they have a knife in my back, 6 inches, and then they take out 3 and it's still in my back 3 inches, and they want me to forgive them.
Right, right.
Like the knife is still in my back, right?
Right.
But wouldn't you agree that then it becomes about boundaries at that point?
Yeah, it comes out
right?
boundaries.
Boundaries. You got to keep that person from you at that point. You can forgive them, but
boundaries.
So then, like
we ain't
I
about to be riding
said,
together like that.
so
nigga.
like I said, it's like now it's different. I got to keep you over there.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's okay. Got to keep you over there.
But do you forgive them though?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like I said, I feel like I am forgiving them, but that's why I questioned it, because it's like,
Do I
don't
really?
know, like, am I? Because I'm. But yeah, that boundary is a necessity.
So-
with some people, it just becomes a necessity because it's like, if I let you too close, like, you can't help it. It's in your nature for you to be that person, and that person is harmful to me. So I can't have that.
Right. So would it be fair to say forgiveness requires release of a debt? It may be establishing boundaries, but you don't live in the fear or the hurt that the original experience calls for you. You move forward and you let go. You forgive yourself as much as you forgive the other person so you can move forward. I think that's the most important thing about forgiveness, because if we don't do that, then we create an environment where we chronically kind of go in this vicious circle and like a hamster on the wheel, and we constantly complaining and talk about all this stuff. But to be free is to embrace the truth and let it go. Facts. Anything else y'all want to add to this?
Oh, that's it, man. I feel like this was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you have any comments, please add them to the comment section. We want to hear them. If you like us, please like us and also subscribe, because we having great conversation. And I hope you understand this is Therapy is Life. Talk to you soon.